Welcome to Megaphone. We are talking about campaigns today. So once you first log in, if you come and you click on the campaigns tab on the side, it's going to bring you to this main page. Now from this main page, you are going to be able to see all the campaigns that you have scheduled. If you haven't archived them, if you haven't deleted them, they're going to appear on this main page. Now, it's important to know that right now, as we're recording, you don't have the ability through the campaigns section to see campaigns that we as a network have scheduled for you. So if you are having us sell advertising for you, there's no way to see those campaigns on your main campaign page. Now, there is a way to get around that a little bit so you can at least see what your inventory is, but Megaphone purposely doesn't want you to accidentally delete a campaign that, for example, another podcast that you're not associated with may be part of. So that's why they don't give you the privileges to be able to see those campaigns, but they are there. Unfortunately, you don't have access to see them. You do see the campaigns that you create. Now, another thing that I want to mention is this is not a section that you would see anything for the Megaphone targeted marketplace ads. That is completely separate. So literally the only thing you're looking at here are campaigns that you would create for yourself. So let's break this down a little bit so you know what you're looking at. The name of the campaign, the dates for the entire campaign. Now that's different than the orders, which we're going to talk about in a second, but the whole campaign, you see the dates there, the advertiser, the budget. Okay, this might be helpful if you just kind of want to know what your numbers are looking like. And then the order. We're going to explain order in a second, but let's go ahead and I am going to take you through the process of how you create one of these. But first, I want to show you what one looks like that's already complete or in the process of becoming complete. So let's click on Pampers. Let's see what Pampers is offering us. So we are now inside of a campaign. I mentioned orders. So now we're on the order page. And orders are runs. Sometimes they're called runs. Sometimes they're called flights. But they are a time period when an ad is supposed to run. When you're dealing with dynamic ads, the most standard length of time to run an ad for is a month, for the entire month. Now, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes advertisers have very specific dates they want things to run, but usually we try to make it nice and clean as possible. So if you can start on the 1st and end on the 30th or the 31st, that is amazing. Okay, so for our examples today, that's exactly what I did. I went through and created some campaigns so you can kind of see what this looks like. Another thing to keep in mind is you may have an advertiser that wants to work with you, and hopefully eventually you do have this, where they want to work with you and have a campaign last longer than 1 month. So let's say they got a great return on their investment and they're going to add on a month, or they had a great return on investment and they're going to add on 3 months. Usually, depending on how you're going to invoice them, usually they're going to want some sort of proof that the ads ran and all the downloads or impressions were delivered, right? Some sort of screenshot or something. So in order to invoice an advertiser, you need to have that proof. And so I have personally found it more beneficial to create orders that end with an entire month. So in this case, we have a campaign for Pampers. And based on this, I can tell that Pampers is going to advertise with Preggy Pals for at least 2 consecutive months. How do I know that? Because this is April 1st to April 30th, and then it picks right up again with May 1st to May 30th. Usually you want to switch up your ads at least a couple times in a 1-month period for dynamic ads, just so your audience doesn't get bored with it. I recommend that you divide up when you're creating these campaigns, that you divide it up according to the months, because you're going to want to invoice that advertiser. They're going to want to see proof. And it's just easier to finish with 1 month. Take a screenshot so you can prove that, you accomplished the downloads or impressions that you promised, and then you move on to the next month. So let's take a closer look. Let's just dive into one of these so you can see what an order looks like. So this is for Preggy Pals. That's the name of the podcast. And in this order, we're looking at a 25,000 download or impression. That's basically what we're promising the advertiser. They are going to give us money, and in turn, we promise them a certain amount of downloads. Okay, in this case, it's 25,000. You can cap it, okay, so that once it reaches 25,000, it stops playing, which is nice, okay? Another thing you can do here, and Megaphone's really good about creating places where you can keep all of the information your advertiser is giving you. So for example, here it asks for the tracking URL. Megaphone doesn't really need the tracking URL in order to run this ad for you. But it purposely creates places where you can add content, where you can add information so that you're not going through a million Google Docs trying to find it. It's aggregating all the content here for you so you have one place to look for it. So if you come across some of this stuff and you're like, why do they need to know that? That's all it is. Some of this stuff is mandatory. You have to have it. And the rest of it is just convenience. Okay, tracking URL is convenient. Okay, you're just trying to keep all this in one location for you. The same thing here. In this case, it's a flat rate. So they've told us that they're going to give us $625 for 25,000 downloads. You can also change this to CPM. CPM stands for cost per thousand. So the amount of money they're going to give you per 1,000 downloads. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and switch this one back though, because this is a flat rate. Here you get to pick what position you want the ad to run and the priority of the ad. So if you were to click this, you can see there's up to 5 different positions where you can run an ad. That means you could technically, and I don't know who would do this, but you could technically have 5 different positions for pre-roll, 5 different mid-rolls, and 5 different positions for post-roll. I don't know anyone who would do that for pre-roll and post-roll, but it is an option. The other option is to select no position, which means it kind of floats around, right? You're basically saying, I don't care where you put the ad, just put it somewhere in the show. Okay. Most of the time you're going to assign it to a specific spot, but there might be cases where you just want it to go wherever. And if you select no position, it will select the first available spot. So it's not always just random, but it will select the first available spot. What is priority? Priority is exactly what it says. So you could technically have a couple different orders, and you could set one for position 1, priority 1, and another for position 1, priority 2. That means that this ad, since it's set for priority 1, takes precedence. Okay, so unless we meet our impressions up here that we've promised, or the date of the campaign runs out, this ad is going to play over priority 2. But if we do meet our impressions or the date expires, it's going to automatically kick over to priority 2. The main reason you would use something like this is really kind of more of a set it and forget it kind of thing. Like you don't want to have to keep track when one campaign stops and another one starts. I don't use this feature as much, but there are some ways that you can use it. It can be very helpful. So just know that it's there. You can target ads according to the location of the listener. So the default here is all countries. That means anybody that could possibly listen to your show is going to hear it. But if you didn't want that, you could X out of that. You could select a specific country. You could select a region. You could select the DMA or even zip codes, and you could even add multiple zip codes. If someone came to you, an advertiser came to you and said, listen, our customers are located in XYZ zip codes, and that's all I want to target. I don't know how big that audience would be, but you could certainly do that, and you could add multiple ones here. Okay, but for our purposes, we're going to do all countries. And the most important section of this is your start date and your end date. And Megaphone will prioritize this. What I mean by that is, in this case, this ad is starting on April 1st, April Fools, but it really is running, I promise. And it is wrapping up on April 30th. Well, if, let's say, April 30th comes around, and you have not met 25,000 impressions, this ad is going to kick off, meaning it's going to stop. This ad is going to stop even though you have not met your impressions, because Megaphone has to prioritize something, right? It's got to have something that's the trigger, and the date is the trigger. And the reason they do that is because most advertisers, that's what triggers the advertisers. Most of the time, the advertiser is going to come to you and say, it needs to end on this date, because they plan these marketing campaigns pretty far in advance. So just keep that in mind. Most of the time, you can leave the actual time the same, but maybe for a specific reason, you want it to start and stop at a specific time. But I usually leave that stuff alone. So that's the first tab here for details. The next tab is where you are actually going to add the MP3, okay? So if it was for our pre-roll, you would add it over here. You just click the little plus button and you select the file from your computer, and then it would upload here. So I've already done this for this ad, okay? So this is for a mid-roll, and I've already uploaded the MP3 file. You would do the same thing for a post-roll if it were a post-roll. Most of the time for campaigns, though, you're really going to go with the mid-roll section because that's what advertisers are going for. Most of the time, you're going to save your pre-rolls and your post-rolls for promos. Say that 5 times fast. And I'm going to do a separate video where we talk about promos. So most of the time for your regular campaigns, it's going to be a mid-roll spot. So you're going to upload this, and then you're going to come to the next tab. And on the next tab, this actually wouldn't be here, okay? It would be blank like this. So you have the option here of selecting certain episodes, right, that you would want this to be part of. So you select the podcast over here. You click the episodes. Boom. It's only going to play on these episodes. Or, I'm going to delete these. You could select an entire podcast. And usually this is what happens, right? You want to go out on all of your episodes for a specific podcast. So I'd click that, select, and there you go. This third option over here, if you recall when we talked about podcasts, in fact, I'm going to go over here just to show you. When we did the video on podcasts, I showed you where you would see this. So I'm going to go inside of an episode. I'm going to scroll down here. Remember this section over here? I don't use it that often, but I use the example of, right now we're inside of a podcast that's about pregnancy. Let's say I thought I could get some advertisers that would specifically want to focus on labor and delivery. So labor and delivery. When I'm uploading my episode, I tag things, and let's just say I tag that labor and delivery, and I saved it, okay? If I did that, when I got to my campaigns over here, in theory, which one was I in? I think it was in this one. I could then select, we're here in targets, right? I could select labor. I could just type it in, and now I don't have anything. Delivery and labor. Let's try that again. Labor and delivery. So if this were a tag that I was using, it would pop up, and then I'd select it, and then this ad would just play on those tags. So you can use it that way. You can also use tags across various podcasts. So not just across episodes, but let's say you were managing several different podcasts, like I am in my account here. I manage 6. So I may have episodes that deal with labor and delivery on my pregnancy show. I may have these type of episodes on my show about newborns. And so it can cross over from podcast to podcast as well. So I don't use it a lot, but that's just another feature. Perhaps you may find a really good use for it with your show. All right. And then our last tab over here, all of this stuff is just kind of for your information. This is an example of aggregating all the information into one spot. Megaphone literally does not need any of the information on this tab. It's just for you to keep everything together. So if you had a promo code and you wanted to put it here, so you know if you need to find out the promo code, you know exactly where to go. A vanity URL, any kind of attachments. So let's say a lot of times advertisers will give you bullet points for what they want you to say in the ad. So maybe you attach that there. Any kind of notes, perhaps sometimes when you talk to these advertisers, they want to have an onboarding call with you just to talk to you a little bit about the product. So maybe, you type in notes from the meeting, whatever you want to do, however you want to use this page. I don't typically use it that much, but you can see the bigger your team is, the more you would want to keep all this information together, right? And Megaphone provides some great opportunities for you to do that. So once you've entered all of this information, you would go ahead and hit save. I don't think I changed too much about this order, so hopefully I can save it. And so you know that the MP3 file has been uploaded because this has turned green. This says it's scheduled, meaning it is ready to go. When April 1st comes around, this thing is automatically going to kick on, okay? You've got the green light, literally, okay? And this is helpful too, this approximate impressions. Impressions is kind of another term for download, okay? This can be helpful too because as more and more people hear the ad, this 0 is going to keep ticking up, right? So at a glance, you're going to be able to see how many out of 25,000 in this case have been filled. And if it's a little bit lower than what you want, maybe you do some extra promotion for your advertiser to try to get those numbers up. When you see the red dot here, needs copy, that doesn't just mean like white paper or notes. It means that with this particular order, I have not uploaded the MP3 file yet. So let me show you that real quick. See, I have it here, right? So I basically went in and did this, but I haven't gone in and uploaded a file yet. So that's why this is red. Nothing is going to run if you don't have a file to run. Okay. So let's go back to campaigns and we can run through an example really quickly. Okay. So the first thing you would do if you were going to create a campaign, you would click Create Campaign. And let's say with this, who is our advertiser? How about BetterHelp? They're an online counseling service. We all could use a little bit of online counseling, right? So I would call this campaign BetterHelp. And it's a little bit redundant, but the advertiser here is also BetterHelp. Sometimes I've seen people for the campaign name, instead of just writing BetterHelp, they put BetterHelp and then the dates of the campaign. But anything pretty much you write is going to be redundant because if you recall on the main campaigns page, it has the campaign name and then right underneath it, it has the dates. So I just write the name of the advertiser. Totally up to you what you want to do. Okay, for the budget, let's go ahead and say it's $500. Okay. You can also come over here and add any kind of attachments. You may want to put your bullet points again, or perhaps the campaign order, whatever you want to keep as part of this. Megaphone doesn't need this. This is just for your convenience to keep everything together. So you come over here and you click save. And this is automatically going to put you inside the order. How do I know? Because here's the name of the advertiser at the top. This is what I've called my campaign. So from here, you're going to create your order. Now, if you needed to go back, by the way, and edit anything we just entered for better help, you would come back and click Edit Campaign. And this is going to pop you right back to where we were, okay? But usually once you set it the first time, it's totally fine. You can leave it like that. Let's talk about creating orders. So this is the order, the flight, the run. It's called a bunch of different things. I usually put the name of the podcast here. So let's say this is for our show Newbies, which focuses on moms right after they have their babies for the first year of life. And the goal here is 10,000. The goal is to get 10,000 impressions or downloads, same thing. And I am going to cap it. I'm a big fan of capping your orders. And the reason is I think you should get paid if you're going to promote somebody. If the agreement was that you're going to promote them, you should get paid. So if I didn't cap something here, then the ad would continue to play and I might not get any additional money from that advertiser, right? So I choose to cap it. You don't have to. You could provide a website here, let's say, in order to track things. Let's see. In fact, I think this company does it. BetterHelp.com/newbies. Let's say that's the link they gave us. You could obviously add more if you wanted to. And for this, it's going to be a flat rate of $500. It could be a CPM. If I wanted to change that, it wouldn't be that high. It wouldn't be $500, but you could change it so it's a CPM, cost per thousand. And yeah, the position looks fine. I do have other mid-rolls besides mid-roll spot number 1, but let's say that that's good. Priority 1 is good. I'm going to do all countries, so I'm not going to narrow this down to a specific city, state, or zip code. And I'm going to go in here and adjust the dates a little bit. So let's say this is going to start. Oh, here's the tricky thing. So I always do this. When you're doing your dates, it is better to start with when the campaign or this order is going to finish, as opposed, like you want to start with this box over here, but this box won't let you go any further than what this box is. So in this case, let's say the campaign's going to end on June 30th, and it's going to start on June 1st. Okay, so I basically had to do this box before I could do this box. All right, so that is good for the details. Let's move on to where the ad's going to be and then upload a file. So it's going to be a mid-roll. So I click the plus sign. Oh boy. And I got a bunch of files here on my desktop. Which can I use? Let's do this. All right, so I've selected my file. Now you can see up here at the very, very tippy top of your screen, here's the progress bar. And so it's going to go all the way across, and then when it's ready, there you go. It pops up right here. So I usually stay on this page until that's done. You can continue on and do other things, but I usually just kind of follow the progress bar. Now I'm going to go over to targets, and this is where I say where I want the ad to run. So I could do specific episodes. In that case, we know this is for newbies, and we are going to have this run on, I don't know, these 4 episodes. But you could choose whichever episodes you wanted to, right? So we're going to select. There you go. If I left it like this, it would just run on these episodes. But now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, no, I want to make a little bit more money. So instead of just focusing on 4 episodes, I'm going to focus on an entire podcast. And obviously, all this information would be worked out with the advertiser in advance. I just want to show you what the system can do. Okay, so there you go. There's your target. I'm not going to really add anything here, but there's your ad copy. So if you wanted to write anything, any notes down here, and then you click save. And it should pop you back out. Okay, so now we're still on the order page, right? So our advertiser is up here, and it's telling you right now it's in the process of uploading this file. I would just make sure that if, like, sometimes advertisers want to hear the spot, you can send them obviously the MP3 or something like that. But if they want to hear it in the actual show, just make sure you give it a little bit of time. Once the audio is done processing, this will turn green and you're ready to go. Okay, so just give it a little bit of time for it to do that. But this is a great page to click on to be able to see your total amount of impressions, so you know how the ad is doing. And obviously you can see some additional information from this, that it's a mid-roll spot, that this is the amount of money that you're expected to make from this, that this is running on newbies, and all that good stuff. Okay, if this were a campaign where the advertiser actually wanted 2 months consecutive and it started in June and it was going to wrap up at the end of the July, I would create a new order and I would start with July 1st up through July 31st. So I would separate these out, and that's mainly for invoicing purposes. You usually invoice 1 month at a time, and you're going to want to prove to the advertiser how many downloads and that you've reached, the amount of downloads you promised them. So it's just easier usually to divide it up month by month if you can, even though in the advertiser's eyes, this is a 3-month campaign. So hopefully that makes sense. And you can always come back out here. Let's take a look at what this looks like now. Yeah. So there you go. There's BetterHelp. You can see the dates, the advertiser, the overall budget, and how many orders are part of each. Okay, guys, I hope that was helpful. Please reach out if you have any questions.